Twin Souls, Different Lenses. Chapter 1, The Birthday Revelation. I met Madelyn on a Tuesday. Which was already suspicious because nothing good ever happens on Tuesdays. I was sitting in the common room of Sunny Meadows Retirement Home. A name so aggressively cheerful it made me want to take a nap. Flipping through my photo album, when this woman plopped down beside me like we were old friends. "Oh, you take pictures too?" she exclaimed, her eyes lighting up like someone had just told her bingo prizes had doubled. "I'm Madelyn, just moved in yesterday." "Gladys," I said, not looking up from my photos. "Been here 3 months. Is that the garden?" She leaned over, pointing at one of my shots. The autumn trees behind the building, all skeletal branches and gray sky. "Yep. Looks like it's dying, doesn't it? Rather poetic." She laughed, actually laughed, and pulled out her phone. "I took a photo of those same trees this morning." She showed me her screen, and I had to squint. It was the same trees. But somehow her photo looked like autumn had hired a PR team. Golden light, warm oranges and reds. Leaves that looked like they were having the time of their lives before decomposing. "How did you?" "Oh, the morning light is chef's kiss," she said, actually making the gesture. I'd never seen someone over 70 do that unironically. "So, Gladys, when's your birthday?" "March 15th. Why?" Her jaw dropped. "No way. Me too. The Ides of March. Caesar's worst day is our best day." I stared at her. "You're aware Caesar was stabbed 23 times on our birthday?" "Yes, but we weren't. We were born." "Glass half full, Gladys." "My glass is half empty, and probably has a crack in it." She laughed again, that ridiculous tinkling sound. "Oh, we're going to be great friends." I doubted it, but I'd been wrong before. Once. In 1987. Chapter 2, The Parallel Lives Unfold. Over the next few weeks, Madelyn became my unintentional shadow. Not in an annoying way, well, maybe a little annoying. But more like the universe was playing an elaborate prank on both of us. The coincidences started small. We'd both been teachers, both elementary school, both 3rd grade specifically. We'd both married at 23. Both had 2 children. Both lost our husbands 5 years ago. Hers to a heart attack, mine to cancer. Both equally terrible. We'd both taught for 35 years. We even both broke our left wrist roller skating in 1972. Were we in the same roller rink? Madelyn asked one afternoon, genuinely curious. Different states, apparently. I was in Ohio. You were in California. So we were cosmically linked even then. Or roller skating was just really popular and we're both clumsy. But the similarities kept coming. We'd both gotten our first cameras as wedding gifts. Pentax Spotmatics, black body, manual focus. We'd both started photography as a way to document our children's lives. We'd both won our local newspaper's photo contest in different years. Me in 1989, her in 1991. Both for shots of children playing in the rain. One evening, over the dinner that Sunny Meadows optimistically called meatloaf, Madelyn told me about her teaching career. "I loved it," she said, eyes distant with memory. "Even the hard days. Especially the hard days, actually. You know that moment when a child finally understands something they've been struggling with? That little light in their eyes?" "I remember the screaming," I said, pushing mystery meat around my plate. "And the flu season. And the parents who thought their little Timmy was a genius when he couldn't even spell his own name." "Well, yes, that too. But didn't you have students who stayed in touch? Who came back to visit?" I paused. I did, actually. Sarah Mitchell had sent me a card every Christmas for 20 years, telling me I'd inspired her to become a teacher. And there was Bobby Chen, no relation to Mr. Chen from room 204. Who'd written me a letter when he'd gotten into medical school, saying I was the only teacher who'd believed in him. A few, I admitted grudgingly. See, you made a difference. Or they had Stockholm Syndrome from being in my classroom. Madelyn pulled out her phone. She was always pulling out that phone, documenting everything like she was filming a nature documentary about nursing home life. Look, this is from my last day of teaching. She showed me a photo of her classroom absolutely packed with current students, former students, parents, even other teachers. Everyone holding signs and balloons. Madelyn in the center, crying happy tears. That's a lot of people, I said. I may have mentioned my retirement once or twice. Or 12 times. She swiped to another photo. This is from my going away party. I had to squint. Was that a banner? Balloons? A cake shaped like an apple? What was your last day like? She asked. I thought back. Quiet. The principal gave me a plaque. A few teachers came by. I went home. Did you want more? Did I? I'd told myself I didn't. I'd said I wanted a simple exit, no fuss. But sitting there, looking at Madelyn's photo of joy and connection, I wondered if I'd simply expected less, and therefore asked for nothing. I wanted what I got, I said firmly. Clean. Simple. Done. Madelyn looked at me with those knowing eyes that were starting to really irritate me. If you say so, dear. Chapter 3, The Marriage Chronicles. A week later, Madelyn was showing me wedding photos. Because apparently, we couldn't have one conversation without discovering another parallel. This is Samuel and me, June 12, 1965. She said, showing me a photo of a young couple, radiant and naive. It rained during the ceremony. The photographer said it was bad luck. I said it was romantic. Samuel said his suit was wool and now he smelled like a wet dog. We laughed so hard I snorted during the vows. The photo was sun-faded but somehow still luminous. You could see the rain streaks on the church windows. But also the way young Samuel looked at young Madelyn like she'd hung the moon and several major constellations. My wedding was June 14, 1965, I said quietly. 2 days after yours. No? Let me see. I flipped through my album to find it. There we were, me and Harold, both looking terrified and formal. The photo was properly composed, correctly exposed, technically perfect. And somehow completely lifeless. You looked beautiful, Madelyn said diplomatically. I looked like I was being audited by the IRS. Was Harold? Did he make you happy? I considered this. Had Harold made me happy? He'd been a good man, responsible, steady, faithful. He'd worked hard. Provided. Never missed a bill payment or a parent-teacher conference. But had he made me happy? He was a good husband, I said finally. Reliable. Present. We had a good life. But? No buts. That's what life is. Reliable and present. Madelyn was quiet for a moment, which was unusual enough that I looked up. Samuel drove me crazy, she said softly. He was always late, always forgetting things. Once he forgot our anniversary. Not just the date, but the entire concept that we had one. She smiled. I was so angry I threw a plate at him. Missed, obviously. I have terrible aim. But you know what he did? Apologized? He went outside, picked flowers from every neighbor's garden. We had some very confused neighbors. and came back with this ridiculous bouquet of stolen flowers and said, "I may forget dates, but I never forget how much I love you." Then he got yelled at by Mrs. Henderson about her prize roses for 20 minutes while I laughed. She showed me another photo. Samuel, years later, gray-haired and laughing, covered in what looked like paint or possibly cake. Is he? What happened there? Oh, that was the great kitchen renovation disaster of 2003. He decided to surprise me by painting the kitchen while I was visiting my mother. Except he painted the dog by accident. And himself. And somehow the ceiling fan. She was giggling now. It took weeks to clean up. The kitchen looked like a crime scene. But we laughed so much I thought I'd crack a rib. I looked at my photos of Harold. Harold mowing the lawn. Harold reading the newspaper. Harold at his retirement party, looking dignified and slightly uncomfortable. All perfectly composed. All documenting a life that was good and stable and quiet. We had quiet dinners, I said, not sure why I was defending this. Intelligent conversations. Mutual respect. That sounds lovely, Madelyn said, and I could tell she meant it. Different marriages, different joys. But as I looked at her photos, chaotic, messy, full of laughter and stolen flowers and accidental dog painting, I wondered if I'd confused quiet with silent and respect with distance. Harold had been good to me. But had I ever thrown a plate? Had I ever laughed until I cracked a rib? Had I ever stolen flowers or painted a dog by accident? No. Because that wasn't who we were. We were sensible people who did sensible things and had a sensible life. And now he was gone, and I was left with perfectly composed photographs of a perfectly quiet life. And Madelyn was left with chaotic joy frozen in time. I wasn't sure which of us got the better deal, though I'd never admit that out loud. Chapter 4: Children and Consequences. The conversation about our children happened over stale cookies in the common room. Sunny Meadows' idea of afternoon tea, though the tea was lukewarm and the cookies tasted like optimistic cardboard. "Tell me about David and Emma," Madelyn said, dunking her cookie with more enthusiasm than it deserved. I sighed. Where to start? David is 47. Works in finance. Married to Patricia, who doesn't like me because I once suggested her pot roast was dry. I was being helpful. He calls once a month. Usually on the first Sunday, like it's a calendar reminder. "Hi Mom, how are you? Everything okay? Great, talk soon, bye." And Emma? 45, marketing executive, divorced, 2 teenagers who I barely know because Emma's always busy. She's the one who moved me here. Said it was for the best, and that she'd visit all the time. I've seen her twice in 3 months. Madelyn patted my hand. "I'm sure they're just busy, dear." "Oh, I know they're busy. Everyone's busy. Too busy for a phone call that lasts more than 5 minutes. Too busy to visit their mother who raised them and sacrificed for them and—" I stopped myself. "Sorry. I don't mean to be bitter. You're allowed to be sad about it." Bitter, not sad. Sad is for people who expected different. I knew how it would turn out. "Did you?" Madelyn asked quietly. "Or did you expect it to turn out this way? So you acted in ways that made it happen?" I stared at her. "That's remarkably insightful and I hate it." She laughed. "My therapist would be so proud. I paid her enough over the years." "You had a therapist?" "Oh, for years. After Samuel died, mainly." But also during that rough patch when Tom was a teenager and we barely spoke for 6 months. She pulled out her phone, of course she did, and showed me a recent photo. A young man in a suit, pretty woman beside him. 2 small children wreaking havoc in the background. That's Tom now. He brings the grandkids every other Sunday. Chaos incarnate. Last week, the youngest one drew on my wall with permanent marker a purple dinosaur eating what I think was supposed to be grandma. And you're okay with that? Well, I wasn't thrilled about the wall. But she was so proud of her art. How could I be mad? She swiped to another photo. And this is Rachel's family. She visits every Sunday without fail. Sometimes twice a week if she's nearby. The photo showed Madelyn surrounded by people. Children, grandchildren, what looked like a great-grandchild. Everyone was laughing, chaotic. Several people were mid-motion blur. It looked exhausting. It looked wonderful. How did you do it? I asked, and I hated how small my voice sounded. Do what? Stay close to them. Make them want to visit. Make them care. Madelyn was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I don't think I made them do anything, Gladys. But I did show up. Even when it was hard. Even when Tom was being a surly teenager and told me he hated me. Even when Rachel moved across the country and I had to fly 6 hours to see her. I showed up, and I was interested in their lives. And I said yes more than I said no. I showed up, I protested. I went to every school play, every parent-teacher conference. Did you enjoy them? Or were you there because you were supposed to be? I opened my mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. I was there because that's what good mothers do, I said finally. Yes. But did you laugh at the plays? Even when they were terrible? Did you take photos and tell David and Emma how proud you were? Or did you sit quietly and applaud politely and tell them they did fine? I thought back to Emma's 3rd grade play. She'd been a tree. A non-speaking tree. She'd been so excited, had practiced standing still for weeks. After the play, I'd told her, good job standing still. Good job standing still. Not, you were the best tree I've ever seen. Or, I'm so proud of you. Just, good job standing still. I wasn't effusive, I admitted. I wasn't like those parents who acted like their child playing a tree was going to win an Oscar. No, Madelyn said gently. But maybe somewhere between Oscar-winning enthusiasm and good job standing still. There was a middle ground? I looked at my cookie, now soggy from sitting too long. So you're saying this is my fault? That my children don't visit because I didn't? What? Cheer loudly enough at their school plays. I'm saying, Madelyn said carefully, that we reap what we sow. And if we sow distance and low expectations and fine, instead of wonderful, we shouldn't be surprised when distance is what grows. That's depressing. Or it's hopeful. Because you can still plant new seeds. Call David. Not on the first Sunday. Surprise him. Ask about his life. Really ask. Tell Emma you'd love to meet her teenagers, even if it's just over video call. Take an interest. Show up. What if they don't want me to? What if they do, and they're just following your lead? I sat with that for a while, watching the afternoon light fade from the common room. Madelyn's cookie was long gone. She'd eaten it despite its obvious staleness. Probably finding some metaphor about life in there too. Your children visit because you were fun, I said finally. I wasn't fun. I was practical and responsible, and I taught them consequences and discipline. And that's valuable too, Madelyn said. But Gladys, you can be both. Responsible and fun. Practical and loving. Teaching consequences doesn't mean you can't also laugh at the chaos. I don't know if I know how. Well then, she said, patting my hand again. Lucky for you, you've got a built-in fun teacher right here. Consider me your chaos consultant. That's the worst job title I've ever heard. See? You're learning already. That was almost a joke. It was almost a joke. And maybe that was almost progress. Chapter 5. The Staff Experiment. One morning, Madelyn suggested we photograph the nursing home staff. It'll be fun. We can make a little gallery. I agreed, mostly because breakfast had been particularly rubbery, and I needed a distraction. First up was Denise, the head nurse. Efficient, no nonsense, always in a hurry. I caught her mid-stride, her face set in what I called her "don't even think about complaining about your medication" expression. The fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows. Perfect. This was real life, rushed, clinical, exhausting. This was Denise as I knew her, competent but cold, professional but distant. Madelyn, meanwhile, had apparently spent 10 minutes chatting with Denise about her daughter's soccer game. She'd somehow discovered that Denise had been up since 4 a.m. because her daughter had a tournament that they'd won. And that Denise had cried in the parking lot from pride and exhaustion. Madelyn's photo caught Denise laughing at something someone said off camera, her whole face transformed. The natural light from the window made her look warm, human, like someone who might actually have a life outside these walls. She's never happy, I told Madelyn later. She smiled at me twice this morning. Madelyn protested. And she told me about her daughter. Did you know Emma is being recruited by colleges? She's only a junior. Her daughter's name is Emma? Something twisted in my chest. Yes. Small world, right? I thought about my Emma, who I hadn't really talked to in weeks, who I'd probably ask the wrong questions if I did call, who probably had accomplishments I didn't know about because I'd never asked. I didn't know Denise had a daughter, I said quietly. Well, you do now. See, people are more interesting than you think. Then there was Jerry, the janitor. Quiet, kept to himself, always had headphones in. I photographed him hunched over his mop bucket. The picture of institutional drudgery. A man going through motions, counting down to retirement. Existing rather than living. Madelyn caught him whistling, holding his mop like a dance partner, actually mid-twirl. How did she even? I didn't even know Jerry could move like that, I admitted. He used to teach ballroom dancing. In the evenings, to make extra money for his kids' college. 4 kids, all graduated, all doing well. He's very proud. Especially of his youngest. She's a doctor now. He never told me any of that. Madelyn patted my hand. Maybe you never asked, dear. The truth stung, but it was the kind of sting that meant something was waking up. Like blood returning to a sleeping limb. We photographed Rosa, the kitchen staff who I'd assumed hated her job based on the quality of the meatloaf. My photo showed her tired, resigned, surrounded by industrial kitchen equipment. Madelyn's showed her decorating a birthday cake with intense concentration and what might have been actual joy. She's taking cake decorating classes online, Madelyn informed me. Dreams of opening her own bakery someday. She makes cakes for her grandchildren every month, different theme each time. Last month was underwater mermaids. She's how old? 62. Never too late to chase dreams, she says. I looked at my photo of Rosa tired, trapped, defeated. Then at Madelyn's focused, dreaming, hopeful. Same person. Different moment. Different question asked. Different connection made. You're making me feel like a terrible person, I said. I'm not trying to. I'm just curious about people. They're interesting. Everyone has a story. What if I don't know how to be curious anymore? Madelyn smiled. Start small. Tomorrow, when someone says, "Good morning," ask them how they slept. Really ask. Listen to the answer. See what happens. That sounds exhausting. It's energizing, actually. Try it, for science. That's not how science works. It's how my science works. The science of not being a grumpy hermit. I'm not a hermit. I'm just selective about human contact. Gladys, yesterday you told me you were upset because someone sat in your chair in the common room. It was my chair. I sit there every day at 3 p.m. It's a chair. In a communal space. That's literally the opposite of your chair. She had a point. A stupid, correct point. Chapter 6. The Great Perspective Shift. Or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Aperture. The turning point came during the spring festival. Sunny Meadows' attempt to convince us that life wasn't a slow march toward the void. They'd hung streamers, fire hazard. Hired a band too loud. And arranged a potluck, potential food poisoning. I was set to photograph the whole disaster when Madelyn grabbed my arm. Gladys, I have a challenge for you. I don't like challenges, or joy. Too bad. We're both going to photograph the festival, but you have to find one thing. Just one that doesn't make you want to write a strongly worded letter to someone. That's not how I work, Madelyn. I know, that's the point. Humor me. I'm old. We're the same age. Then humor us both. So I wandered around, camera in hand, looking for something that wasn't terrible. The streamers were tacky. The band was off-key. Specifically the trumpet player, who seemed to be playing an entirely different song from everyone else. The potato salad was definitely past its prime. Possibly past its sell-by date. Maybe past several important food safety milestones. Then I overheard Denise talking to another resident about her daughter's soccer recruitment. She was glowing. Actually glowing. And I thought about Emma. My Emma, and how long it had been since I'd asked about her life beyond. How are you? I snapped a photo of Denise mid-laugh, animated, alive. Then I saw Jerry showing Rosa some dance move, both of them laughing as he spun her awkwardly. An old man teaching an old woman to dance in a nursing home cafeteria with bad streamers and worse music. And somehow it was sweet. Actually sweet? I took that photo too. And then I saw Mr. Chen from room 204. Usually silent and withdrawn. Absolutely destroying the dance floor with Mrs. Patterson. Both of them laughing so hard I thought we'd need to call Denise for medical reasons. The late afternoon light streamed through the windows, catching the sparkles on Mrs. Patterson's dress. Why she owned a sequined dress in a nursing home was another question entirely. I took the shot. And then another. And then a few more. Because watching them was like watching people forget they were old and tired and living in a nursing home. And remembering they were just people who liked to dance. When I showed Madelyn later, she clapped her hands. See? Beautiful. It's 3 photos, Madelyn. Don't get carried away. 3 more than you would have taken last month. It's a start. She showed me hers. A nearly identical shot of Mr. Chen and Mrs. Patterson. But she'd caught the moment a second later when Mr. Chen dipped Mrs. Patterson. And they both looked terrified and exhilarated. We're like the same person, Gladys. Just with different settings. Camera settings? Life settings, you walnut. That night, I did something I hadn't done in 3 months. I called Emma. Not on a first Sunday. Not on any particular schedule. Just called. Mom, is everything okay? She sounded worried. Everything's fine. I just. Tell me about work. What are you working on? Silence. Then. You want to know about work? Yes? Is that weird? It's just. You've never asked before. Had I never asked? I thought back. Had I ever asked Emma about her work beyond, how's work? Followed by, that's good? Regardless of her answer? Well, I'm asking now. Tell me everything. Pretend I'm interested. She laughed. Actually laughed. Okay, but you asked for this. She talked for 20 minutes. About her marketing campaign for some tech company. About her boss who was both brilliant and infuriating. About her teenagers who were driving her crazy but also making her proud. About her life. And I listened. Really listened. And asked questions. And even laughed once or twice. When we hung up, she said, "This was nice, Mom. Can we do it again? I'd like that." After, I sat in my room, looking at the photos from the festival on my camera. They weren't Madelyn-level sunshine and rainbows. They were still my style, a bit moody, a bit shadowy. But there was something in them. Something I couldn't quite name. Hope, maybe. Or at least the possibility of it. Chapter 7. The Gallery. A month later, Madelyn convinced me to display our photos side by side in the common room. A study in perspective. She announced to anyone who would listen. Which at Sunny Meadows was approximately 7 people. And one very interested cat that wandered in from somewhere. The exhibition was eye-opening. Same subjects, same moments, completely different worlds. My photo of the garden at dusk, moody, contemplative, slightly ominous. Branches like reaching fingers, shadows that suggested mystery or possibly just end times. Madelyn's peaceful, gentle, inviting. The same branches becoming a canopy of protection, shadows offering rest. My shot of dinner service, institutional, cold, fluorescent lit despair. The geometry of loneliness, separate tables, separate people, separate lives. Hers, warm, communal, people actually talking to each other, sharing food, laughing at someone's joke. My photo of the hallway, empty, echoing, reminiscent of hotel corridors from horror movies. Hers, sunlit, calm, peaceful, like a path to somewhere worth going. But here's the thing that got me. I'd taken new photos too. The ones of Denise laughing. Jerry dancing. Mr. Chen and Mrs. Patterson looking young again. Despite their combined age of approximately 150 years. And they didn't look like my old work. They had something. Not Madelyn levels of everything is sunshine and fairy dust. But something softer. Something that acknowledged that yes, we're all aging. And yes, this place has questionable meatloaf. And that trumpet player still can't find the melody. But also, there are moments. Little pockets of light. Small beautiful things. You're getting soft, Madelyn teased, elbowing me gently. I'm adapting, like a fungus. I'll take it. A few residents gathered to look at our photos. Mrs. Kowalski pointed at Madelyn's photo of Denise. I didn't know she could smile like that. She can, I said, surprising myself. You just have to catch her at the right time. Usually after her coffee but before someone complains about the temperature. And if you ask about her daughter Emma, the soccer player, she'll talk for 20 minutes and you'll actually enjoy it. Madelyn beamed at me like I'd just discovered penicillin. Mr. Chen shuffled over, Mrs. Patterson on his arm. They'd been inseparable since the festival. Apparently, you're never too old for a nursing home romance. That's us, Mr. Chen said, pointing at my photo of them dancing. You looked happy, I said. We were. We are. He squeezed Mrs. Patterson's hand. Martha here says life's too short to sit around waiting to die. Says we should dance while we can. Wise woman,